I'm Wanjiku Kairu here at the Jazz Institute of Chicago office on the fifth floor of Chicago's iconic Fine Arts Building on Michigan Avenue. This is also where Jazz Institute hosts its program Front Row, which is a series of intimate live recordings, concerts, and master classes. Find out more at jazzinchicago.org/front row. I'm here today with James Brandon Lewis performing on Saturday, August 31st at 3 o'clock at the Von Freeman Pavilion. James, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for asking me to be on today's show.
Oh, we're happy to learn more about you.
Mm-hmm.
So let
Awesome.
me just get some questions in because we have to know some information about you.
Okay,
So
cool.
you were forced to join choir in the fifth grade and eventually learned to play the clarinet. What led you to choose a wind instrument?
Well, let me just add a few things. Number one, I wasn't forced. At my school, the Buffalo Academy for the Visual and Performing Arts in Buffalo, New York, where I grew up, it was required that you that you had to fifth and sixth grade you had to be in choir. And at the urging of my mom, who was a definitely loved the saxophone, um, prior to me attending the Buffalo Academy for the Visual Performing Arts in fifth grade, in fourth grade actually, she wanted me to learn the clarinet. Oh no, she wanted me to learn the saxophone, but then the instructor recommended I start on the clarinet first. And
Mhm.
but her master reasoning behind this was my mom was a fifth grade math and science and social studies teacher, and she didn't want to have me as a student. And so she saw me, she saw in me that I had a love for music and asked me if I wanted to audition um, for the Buffalo Academy for Visual and Performing Arts. And so that's how
Mhm.
that whole thing started. She saw that I had a love for music and thought that learning an instrument would be a thing I'd be interested in. And she was right. And so that's how that happened. So I wasn't forced, but it was required. So
Yeah.
however you want to
Yeah.
look at it. Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
yeah. So what made you choose a wind instrument then?
You know, when you're from when you're from Buffalo, New York, the first one of the first names you hear about is Grover Washington Jr. He's actually from Buffalo. And so I was enamored by his playing. And when I eventually picked up the saxophone, uh, I was happy to do so. And the clarinet, obviously I at the time I only knew about Benny Goodman. um, I wish I would have known about John Carter later on and so many others, Don Byron, so on and so forth. Maybe I would have stuck with the clarinet. But that was the instrument that was first put in front of me. Just so happens to
Mhm.
be a woodwind instrument, and so I just fell in love with that, and I've been sticking to it ever since.
Oh, yeah. Very
Yeah,
nice. What grade were
yeah.
you in when you picked up the saxophone?
I was, let's see, I think I was in seventh grade. Yeah,
Yeah.
seventh grade. Pretty sure. I
Oh,
think
that
that's
happened
right.
pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, it happened
Was
pretty
there
quickly.
yeah. Was there anyone else in your family that was musically inclined at all, or was it just your mother pushing you to live out your dream?
My mom
Hmm.
definitely. Both of my parents are. They can hold a pitch. My mom could sing. She sang in church and so on and so forth. And so now I have a few uncles that dibbled and dabbled in music, but nobody was a professional musician. Um, but yeah, so I just stuck with it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
You've collaborated with so many talented artists in the past. Has there been
Hmm.
any collaboration that really stood out to you in some way?
Oh wow. Um, I think over the years playing with William Parker, um, really stands out as someone who embodies um, who they are on and off the bandstand. It isn't separate. I think that stands out. Um, wow, that's a pretty difficult question. I haven't been asked that before. Um, I think William Parker stands out as being one of the ones. But also getting a call to participate in a Sonny Rollins tribute concert at the urging of Sonny Rollins. via John Faddis, actually, who's there in Chicago. That was pretty inspiring to share the bandstand. I didn't get to meet Sonny because at that time I'm not, he didn't attend the concert, but he wanted John Faddis to be in charge of it. And I shared his bandstand with Jimmy Heath, uh, uh, James Carter, Joshua Redman. No, not Joshua Redman, Robbie Coltrane, and a few others. And that was pretty intense. But that wasn't a collaboration, but I felt like that was pretty memorable to, I guess, collaborate in the sense of I got to play with other musicians for that one time that I really absolutely loved and respect. Oh, Joe Lovano was on the gig too. So it was pretty cool.
Oh, nice, cool. Nice. Sounds like a lot of fun. So one of your recent albums, I Have I, was a tone shift from a lot of your earlier work. What do you think made I Have I so unique?
I think the instrumentation. For that album, I worked with the cellist and by the name of Chris Hoffman. And it's funny because sometimes when I'm interviewed, people like to mention Air and the group, as far as like famous trios and stuff. And I don't, I love that group. Of course, I love Henry Threadgill. I love their playing. That group's legendary. But I think I'm not sure. I just try to capture whatever my lived experience is at the time. I think I had taken a break from making trio records. I think the last trio record I made before I came out in 2017. And so to bring back the trio concept, which is basically just at this point, it's pretty much about chasing energy and a youthful sound. And when I say youthful, I mean I'm 41, so I'm kind of thinking about nieces and nephews and cousins who are a lot younger than me. Trying to capture just an energetic sound, a sound that's pushing energy and different influences, hip hop, rock, so on and so forth. So I just try to create a new painting every time I make an album. I think about it as like a new painting, a new thing to discover about myself. And on top of that, I think it's the first time I don't know any records that has a cover of a Cecil Taylor tune and a Donny Hathaway tune. So I mean that makes it unique in and of itself, right there.
And you have a new album out now for Mahalia with Love. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I can. So that album, really the spark for that album was just growing up around my grandmother. And I see parallels in the way I hear elder statesmen in jazz talk about Coltrane, those who've heard John Coltrane. I got that same feeling when I would hear my grandmother talk about her time getting to hear Mahalia Jackson. It was that same, almost like hearing the voice of God, and I was trying to capture that experience and capture my own lived experiences. Obviously, I didn't get to hear Mahalia Jackson. She had already passed on after I was born. But, hearing those stories via my grandmother was more than enough inspiration for me to want to honor someone whose legacy is so rich. We're talking about someone who, the idea of getting a Grammy in gospel music was because of Mahalia Jackson, along with a host of other really amazing things. And she, before it was an industry, I mean, the idea of being a gospel singer, traveling the world, I mean, there wasn't a gospel music industry. It was just her, and so so many amazing things. I was just amazed by her sound and, her life, to go from New Orleans to Chicago. And, as a young person, I can't imagine like traveling. Like I couldn't even imagine that now. So I felt it was necessary to start. I've been feeling like this for a while. It's like all my albums, I try to unveil little parts of myself. And for me, I felt like this was a story that I wanted to tell. And on top of that, I've been playing gospel music my whole life. I mean, really, in church, out of church, and just felt like it was time for me to revisit a part of myself that I hadn't documented. I hadn't actually documented me playing any. You can find clips of me playing gospel tunes on YouTube, but I hadn't had any recorded. Hadn't recorded an album, so I felt it was very fitting to also tell a storyline that was about a continuum.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you had people like Albert Eiler and Gene Ammons who made one of my first saxophonists that I loved and admired growing up in Buffalo, New York, via gospel was Angela Christie. Most people aren't aware. It's amazing, amazing saxophonist who I think I might have discovered her watching like Bobby Jones Gospel with my mom on BET.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's always been in my musical DNA,
Yeah.
gospel music and spirituals. So I felt it was very fitting. And that album, um, yeah, it was enjoyable to make. William Parker
Oh, good.
on bass, Chad Taylor, who will be with me on Saturday, on
Mm-hmm.
drums, Kirk Kanufsky on cornet, um, Chris Hoffman on the cello. And so I had an enjoyable time making it, for
Oh,
sure.
very good.
Yeah.
What will you be performing for us on Sunday? Will it be tunes from the new album?
Yeah, on
Mm-hmm.
Saturday it'll be tunes
Saturday.
from Eye of Eye, as well as
Mm-hmm.
two for an upcoming album that would be featuring my trio. That'll be coming out in 2025, called Apple Cores, which is um, actually a nod to Don Cherry, as well as um, the title Apple Cores was Amiri Baraka's first column for Downbeat magazine. Um, and those articles are also included in a book that he made called Black Music, which was released after Blues People.
Mm-hmm.
And that book specifically highlights the avant-garde, and talks about Ornette Coleman and Don Cherry. So there'll be some music from Eye of Eye and some music for a forthcoming album called Apple Course.
All right. Well, we will be excited to hear it. Thank you so much for meeting
Definitely,
with us today, James.
definitely. Thank you.
Of course, and you can catch James on Saturday, August 31st at 3 o'clock at the Von Freeman Pavilion.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.